Thank you for joining us again on a special edition of the Eyewitness Morning News. We're remembering Hurricane Ida 1 year. 1 year ago today, also Hurricane Katrina 17 years ago today.
That's right.
We're in St. John Parish in Laplace at a restaurant called Petra, which was heavily damaged in the storm, as much of this parish was.
Oh my goodness, so many homes, businesses, schools, they had so much rebuilding to do. Parish President Jackyn Hotard is joining us now 1 year later, and let's just take it back to talking to you right after the storm. We actually couldn't. You were one of the last people we were able to get a communication with. Remember, you guys didn't have self-service, and I think that was when we started to get the weight of how much things had changed.
Yes, and in fact, we lost our satellite phones as well. So the backups to the backups, everything failed, and we went, you know, it seemed like about 48 hours without being able to communicate with anyone. It was pretty scary.
You know, and here in New Orleans, we judge everything by Katrina, and for Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. John, St. Charles, this was your Katrina.
Definitely. We were spared loss of life, and we're so grateful for that. But from a destruction standpoint and damage to infrastructure, very similar to Hurricane Katrina.
How many buildings do you think were hit?
We've estimated 95% of all of the structures in St. John, and for parish government, 72, all of our facilities were damaged. You know, we oversee the DMV and so many other structures, and everyone took a hit.
All right, so 1 year later, where are we? Let's talk about the good things first. Where has the progress been made?
There is a lot of progress, and it's visible just, you know, traveling through our neighborhoods and through our commercial corridors. Many people have begun to rebuild. They're finished their rebuild, even though we know many people are still struggling, fighting with insurance companies. But the sign of recovery is very visible, so we're hopeful. And many of our businesses have taken this opportunity to restore and revitalize their storefronts. And so we're seeing, I guess, a silver lining come out of something that was such a disaster.
Was most of the damage wind-driven?
Both. You know, we had flooding. We did. We had the same flooding. You know, we're outside of that federal levee protection system. Even though that levee is being constructed right now, the protection can't come soon enough. So we experienced both wind and flood.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that project. Where are you guys with it? How much longer will it take to complete?
It's moving along very well, so we're grateful for that. All of the access roads have been constructed. Many of our residents can see that. We will have some layer of flood protection at the end of 2023 when all of those sand bases, if you will, are put in. We'll have a couple of feet of protection, and then in 2024 we will have about 6 feet of storm surge protection, and then they'll begin to install the floodgates. It's 17 miles of earthen levee, and then the other 1.5 miles are flood structures. So that project is moving along very quickly. I meet with our state and federal partners every single month to make sure that this project moves forward.
And how is the population growth here in St. John?
We actually saw a decline. I believe most of the parishes in the region saw a decline from 2010 to 2020. So we already had a little bit of that decline. I would say that many of our residents have come back, but many still can't get back into their homes just from dealing with insurance companies, and a unique challenge to this recovery has been supply chain delays. Many people can't get materials, labor. It's a double whammy. It's very different even from Hurricane Isaac, which was on this day. That was more of a rain event, but people were back in their homes very quickly. This has been a brutal challenge, dealing with all of the other obstacles that were put in the way before the storm even, you know, made landfall.
And of course, that is one of the lingering effects. 1 year later, you mentioned the insurance battles, which we're hearing across parishes impacted by this, and then also so many people still living in temporary housing.
Yes, we have about 1,000 temporary housing units still in St. John. It's a joyous occasion when one person, you know, gets to get out of that temporary housing and get into their homes, and we are seeing that every week. But it's still a challenge.
And quickly, was the federal government enough help?
It's never enough. You know, let me start with that. It's never enough, because when you are homeless, when you're in need of that emergency sheltering, it just can't come quick enough. Although we are very grateful to our state and federal partners for everything that they've done, because we can't recover from a storm of this magnitude on a local level. So I don't want to sound ungrateful, but it's just never quick enough when you need water and electricity.
Sure, and we should say you handled all this while you personally dealt with the effects of the storm and still ran the parish, so we hope that your personal rebuilding efforts are going well as well.
Yeah, so I got back into my home about 30 days ago. But,
that long?
Wow.
Yes, and many people still aren't in there. So, but you know what? We're in this together. I'm as unhappy as I was about flooding, to be able to share and be able to truly empathize with what our residents are going through, I'll take that.
All right, Jackyn Hotard, thank you very much. Let's get over to Peyton now.